Welcome to the Underground, the Steel City Underground, the black and gold standard for Pittsburgh Steelers coverage. Now, here's your host, Joe Kuzma and Brian E. Roach.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Steel City Underground podcast. My name is Joe Kuzma, and joining me here by my side, my good colleague, buddy, friend, and pal one, Mr. Brian E. Roach. Brian, what's going on, my friend? How you feeling?
Very tired.
You're very tired. Are you tired of the primetime games? Because now they're pretty much over unless the Steelers get flexed.
I am sick of the primetime games. You know, as Murtaugh from Murtaugh and Riggs would say, I'm too old for this shit.
Yeah, too old. It's fine. We could say that. You know why we could say that? Because pretty much everybody else says the only thing we can't do is like use like actual clips from the games or anything like that. We don't want copyright strikes. We don't need that. We don't need that noise anymore. Remember we were offline for like 2 weeks at one point. Now it wouldn't matter right now. We're heading into a bye week. I don't know that we're going to have a whole lot to talk about. What's kind of bye-week news? Steelers trade for a wide receiver? Probably not. Christian Kirk got hurt. Cooper Kupp, Sean McVay's happy to have him there, and Deontay Johnson's a Baltimore Raven now. So
they couldn't have traded for him anyway because they traded him, and there's a rule against trading for the person you traded.
No, there's no rule for that. There's no rule for that. You're
yeah,
making this. Don't be telling people that. You're making that up.
I swear to God, I read that they could not get him back because there was something in the rules that you couldn't trade him and then trade back for him.
Nah, I don't know about that. You know what? That would be interesting to see. You know what it is? You know what it is in the rule book? You have to have both feet down. You can't tap the same one like twice. So if you hop around on one leg around the field, it wouldn't count as a catch. But if you have one knee down. If you have a knee down,
it's not inclusive of one-legged receivers.
It is not inclusive of one-legged receivers. I don't know that a one-legged receiver would get around. There used to be a one-legged WWE superstar. He was the one-legged wonder, Zach Gowen. I think he lived up in Michigan. I actually met him once upon a time in a past life. But Zach Gowen would not be able to catch a pass in the NFL. College football, completely cool. NFL. Yeah. If you have your knee down, and I'm pretty sure, I think Russell Wilson said this in his post game. He said something like, hey, I don't make the rules or whatever. And there was like Malik Neighbors. And Brian, go ahead and say it. I know you want to say it. The referees, there's something. My mind it's fuzzy. I've been convinced to not say is it a peculiar smell?
They stink.
That's what it is.
Stink.
Oh my goodness. I didn't have a problem with Scott Novak and his crew heading into this. I don't want to make it all about referees, but I'm seeing all the New York media complain about it today. And they're trying to say, I actually had a buddy who's a Bengals fan text me out of nowhere. Like, you don't hear me saying, oh, well, the Bengals suck. They lost to the Eagles. Oh, the Bengals suck. They lost to everybody else. No. I don't text them. I don't care about their games, but everybody cares when the Steelers are on. The Steelers are must-see TV, right? And he's talking about the Steelers are getting the Patrick Mahomes treatment. I said, what do you mean the Patrick Mahomes treatment? And then Daniel Jones threw the pick there or whatever, or a strip sack. And I said, that's the Patrick Mahomes treatment right there, as if they would have thrown a flag and said that was roughing the passer.
Yes,
or the same one.
Him.
Yeah, you touched him. You tugged on his dress or skirt. Can we still say stuff like that? I know it's 2024, but
really can't.
Maybe
you can't say that.
We don't know. Maybe Daniel Jones has different preferences.
You can say it.
But it's not appropriate.
It's not appropriate.
It's not appropriate. We know what we're getting at. It's not to disparage. We are trying to be inclusive of everyone, including one-legged receivers on this show.
The old Jack Lambert comment about quarterbacks could not be used in today's age.
That's what he put a skirt on him or whatever. You know what? I always wonder, should we start the show back over? No, it's been fun. And you know what? Bengals fans, Browns fans, the people that come at me, I don't like trash talk or anything when their games are on. I don't say anything to these people. You know why? Because I just want to sit and enjoy my own game. But to say the Steelers had any kind of preferential treatment when they had at least 2 touchdowns taken off the board, I mean, it was pretty bizarre with a couple of these, especially. Like the one was the very first one with Broderick Jones, ticky-tack, right? Maybe it was a face mask, but it's away from the play.
His head went like this. He did touch the face mask. Did he yank the guy's face down? No, but by rule, Here's the thing. Last group, whoever the guy is, they're anal. That was an anal group of referees. Not only do they suck, but they suck anally. They are anal suckers because every rule was to the letter of the law, right? Normally, like some of those delay games, as Troy Aikman whined about for ad nauseum, they give the offense the benefit of the doubt. It's never zero and up the flag. But these guys, man, they were like zero flag. They're anal. They're by the rule.
Yeah, well, I didn't get to rewatch the game. I'm only there live and in person, and I have no idea what's being said on television about the flags or the officiating or whatever. I can just tell you that within the building, it was just the confusion of, for example, Malik Neighbors has a knee down towards the end of the game, and they went back and they ran off some of the clock, and that was good. But it was almost kind of like you're giving teams a chance to catch their breath. It's like a timeout. They're able to recollect discuss game plan, like collect themselves, like the same way as if it's a timeout. It kind of drives me crazy sometimes. It's like, get it right. But in certain moments, it's like getting it right can sometimes just kind of almost bite you in the ass too, But I saw that, and it was like, oh, Neighbors kept his knee inbounds, so the clock should still be running. In reality there, they either would have had to spike or hurry up, or they would have been trying to adjust things at the line, which I don't know that I trust Daniel Jones in a hurry up. He's been in the league like 5 years or whatever, so maybe he's got some of this down a little bit better than a rookie or somebody doing it the first time or with a new team. But the point is, they would have wasted more than 10 seconds. A 10-second runoff there was kind of like a slap in the face. It's like, oh, it was 10 seconds. Oh, you know what I mean? And the same thing is when the players get hurt now and come off the field, and you have either you get exercise using the timeout or whatnot. But it did seem like you were saying, anally sucking or whatever that they're doing. Like the referee
sucking anally.
My buddy, I told him, I'm like, hey, this isn't a good look. But I guess they got the Pickens one right. But I heard some of the post-game callers. The post-game callers call in. How is Tomlin is so dumb? How does he know he can't challenge that? Because the referees aren't communicating in that moment that we already reviewed this, blah, blah, blah. This is the criteria of whatever. Tomlin's like, look at this again. Are you crazy? And I guess not, because in real time, this was over where I was sitting, and it's like, how is that not a touchdown? Like, it blew my mind. He held onto the ball. I'm like, did it bobble when he came down? And you watch the replay? No. And it's like his foot did this magic, somebody put an invisible hoverboard underneath it or a visible block, and he just couldn't tap it. But
there was a
magnet
in the end zone, and he had a opposite polarizing magnet in his shoe, and therefore he could not touch the ground with that foot.
But I just wanted to preface this by the New York media or New York fans or whatever. I will say this much. I did not give the Giants enough credit that I would give them after this game. I did not feel approaching this game, doing the pregame, that they had maybe as good of players or a team as came to play on Monday Night Football. And I know that might be seems silly to say in some cases because it's Daniel Jones, right? But Malik Neighbors can play. Tyrone Tracy can play. Singletary's, I think Tracy, this is like a real coming out game. I just said a week ago, who's this guy? You know what I mean? I think it was.
Here's what I'm going to say about Tyrone Tracy.
Go ahead.
I'll wait and see. If this is the only game he does anything, then it ain't him.
Yeah, which is fair. I mean, that's more than fair, Brian. You know it's fair. But Najee Harris, how about Najee Harris running like a man possessed too? I don't want to take away from the Giants just 1 second, but Tracy has 145 yards rushing. I mean, the Steelers gave up. This is the most rushing yards that they've given up in a game so far this season. Only two other teams topped 100 to date. Dallas Cowboys, Indianapolis Colts, both losses. So giving up 157 here, probably better. Both of those teams, too, I feel like they have a little bit of a blueprint. I think the Jets tried to do this, too, and it's against the nickel defense. Make sure I circle back to that. So Tracy, I wanted to say, what did he do last week? Because I think he's on the path, right? Okay, so the week before it wasn't. It was a couple weeks ago against Seattle. It was also supposed to have a really good defense. That was a win for the Giants, one of their few victories of the year. 29-20, he had 18 for 129. So it's not a blip on the radar because he only had 6 carries against the Eagles last week, in which they punted like 11 times. And you're like, oh my goodness, this team punts 11 times. They have to be absolutely terrible. But Neighbor's pretty good. Darius Slayton looks like a freaking all-star out there. 4 receptions, 108 yards. The Steelers defense, they had some cracks. They did for sure.
Mm-hmm.
So there's another team out there, obviously, that's trying to play with their $1 million athletes and whatnot. And they've been getting a lot. Brian Daboll, their head coach, their Joe Shine, their general manager, they've been getting a lot of heat. They're on hot seats. Everybody's like, are they going to fire the owner? Going to fire this guy? Are they going to fire that guy? This isn't working. Daniel Jones, this and that. You got rid of Saquon Barkley. And actually, they went out there and they took it to the Steelers. It was a bunch of field goals. It was a field goal mess for the whole first half, aside from the penalties and stuff. We may not agree with them. They got the Pickens call right. The Steelers' offense felt good, right? And it felt good to enough to a point that I think you realize they weren't punching it in, but it was like almost self-defeating, or just these little things. Broderick Jones face mask. Pickens doesn't get his pinky toe down with his extra foot. But it still felt like they were moving the ball. They were still at least putting up points. They didn't trail in this game at any point. So I think it was at least encouraging.
I really don't have the problem with the offense. I thought the offense looked, decent. And at times flashed good. The pass to Pickens on the sideline is a gorgeous pass, right? That Russ throws. It's absolutely beautiful. They had their moments. I continue to say the same thing that I've been saying all year, though. When this team gets turnovers, right, they can win the game. When they don't get turnovers, they have problems. When did the game start to turn around? They started getting turnovers at the end of the game. I was concerned. The defense thrives on getting the ball back. And I think when they have to stay on the field, they can be exposed. That is a problem. And one way or another, they got to figure out. They can't let anybody come in. I mean, the Ravens have a heck of a run game, right? They got to figure out the run defense before they get to that game.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I know, like, Russell Wilson fumbles toward the end. We're speaking of things anally today, apparently. Did your sphincter pucker up a little bit at the end there, or were you already in bed? Like, some people left. They thought, got this in the bag. And I'm making fun of the kid next to me. And it's like,
that at all.
Well, I mean, because it's a work, it's a work night. I mean, so are Sunday night games, but probably Monday night's even rougher than usual for most folks. They got to get there, or not your usual crowd that's always there. Monday night, Thursday night, they get rid of. Christmas Day will be the same way. So some people are going to hit the road in advance, and they did, and it was like, geez, oh man, it's like all the way to the end. Not only Russell fumbling, which was unfortunate, because that's the only blemish really I felt in his game. There might have been one or two where he could have got rid of the ball, but then he might have put it up in danger too. So I felt like taking the sack was the right thing instead of just letting it loose. It squirts loose. Maybe he gets hit as he's throwing it. Something goofy like that happens, right? Or that was really the only blemish in his game was the fumble. And then on the very next series, they had a chance to close out the game. And he just couldn't get that extra yard or yard and a half or whatever. It was a 4th and 2. You're in the middle of the field. You're like, okay, Tomlin, are we going to go for it, close this out, or are you going to put the defense back in there? And then it's like, oh, geez, here we go.
When Russ fumbled, that's when I said, I was talking to my friend Don, and I said, I'm going to bed. And by the way, condolences to Don. He lost his wife recently. Our condolences to you, Don. But that being said, I'm talking to him last night as we're watching the game. Same way I'm texting back and forth with you. I have several people that I'm texting during the games with. And he's like, and I went, I'm going to bed. That was when Russ fumbled. I'm like, I'm going to bed. This is pissing me off. I'm going to bed. I didn't go to bed, of course, but I said I was going to bed. And then, TJ does what TJ does.
Yeah, TJ does what TJ does. I mean, TJ just... I feel like the Steelers' second half, their coaching staff, they find a way to figure it out. And one of the things that's really been praised, even national media, over the last, even going back to last week, special teams, Danny Smith,
they've been
this
incredible.
Team. It's unbelievable. And there was apparently, I think Tomlin sits down, he has like his pregame show, Mike Tomlin. Well, Mike Tomlin shows on in the evening, and then they run. I don't think they run the same thing before games. I don't usually get to see it because I'm walking in the stadium. But there was a clip that came out where he was like talking about special teams and how much they focus on it, et cetera, et cetera. And even Calvin Austin breaking one came up as a potential possibility. And that Calvin Austin anytime touchdown deal, I joke about it, but there it was. And then, I just keep coming back to, is Russell Wilson the right fit for the offense? It sure feels like at 26 points. I know they left a lot on the board. They could have been up 40. Put up 40 points in this game. It feels different. It feels like the guys who totally weren't disappeared, that just felt like you got to go get an Ayuk, you got to get Devontae Adams, you got to go try and make a stab for a Christian Kirk or whoever you could get in the free agent market when Justin Fields was at quarterback. It feels a little bit different now because Russell Wilson, especially second half, when you're able to complete these passes, and it looked like vintage Russell Wilson. Like, I start to get excited now. That pass to Pickens, the touchdown pass to Calvin Austin. He had one that went behind Van Jefferson. It was another red zone opportunity where they didn't get the touchdown and went for a field goal there.
So I put that one more on Van than I do on Russ.
Yeah.
Van was not situationally aware and didn't realize he had a wide open spot to just sit down in and let the ball hit him, and just kept running his route. And it is what it is. Which is
awkward because there is another point somewhere where they get a first down. He runs a little hitch. And I don't remember specifically in the game where this was, but he runs a hitch, comes back, and he probably feels like the DB, like right on his side, right by his, and he takes like a shuffle or two out toward the sideline and makes himself like, here I am. I'm big and wide open. And Russ sees this and just boom. There's a few instances like that. There was one with like Freiermuth, one of the few times that he was targeted, where it was just like Russ is recognizing Pickens one-on-one, single high safety and stuff of that nature, where give the Giants defense some credit. Those guys on the front line, the defensive line, we knew they were going to be dudes, right? They could wreck games. They could put pressure. They got run on by the Eagles. They got run on by the Steelers through the first half too, but they're still dudes, right? But also it's like Russ is going to back some of these guys up, and now you're going to be able to run the football. And I think that's the dimension he brings here.
Yeah. It is a different feel. There's no question about it. It's the right call by Tomlin to switch to Russell Wilson once he was healthy. It is just a different feel. It's the difference between a young and basically still growing and inexperienced quarterback versus a vet who's seen it all and done it all, right? And they have a different. Russ's ball is just different, right? It's Justin tends to throw the ball more on a line. Russ tends to put it up in a way that is more catchable, and is maybe even more accurate than Justin is, or at least he has appeared so. It is a different feel. The offense is clicking much better with Russell Wilson as the quarterback. There's no question about that. As I said, I could have gone through the whole night last night, and I would not have had disparaging remarks to say about the offense. My problems were on the other side of the ball.
Oh, we're going to get there real soon, but I just wanted to rewind again that you're getting guys involved like a Van Jefferson, like Calvin Austin having another, is starting to really come alive. I wish Roman Wilson wasn't placed on IR. He's going to miss 4 games now. That's really unfortunate because they need him. They need his speed out there. I think it might open up some things some more. He may also be a willing blocker. I'm hearing some good things. You see some things. Calvin Austin tries to stick his neck out there, even though he's not the biggest of guys. And that's helpful. It really feels like the team approach. It feels like there's something brewing, right? And I just feel like there's some of those throws and some of the plays. Again, I have a statistic here, and I got to find it. And it was how many big plays did the Steelers...
You and your numbers.
Well, it's about the number of big plays and the number of 400-yard... it was Mark Caboli, if I could find it here, that put this out. past 2 weeks, 33rd team has this. It was 835 total yards, 9.5 yards per pass attempt, 4 yards per rush, 9.5. Those are all fourth in the league. They have 34 plays of 10 plus yards just in these last 2 weeks. And people are going to say, well, who did they play? This and that, the Jets, the Giants. Hey, look, the Jets still have a good defense. The Giants still have a good. I don't think defense has been the problem with those two teams. And when you take a look at, there's always these exercises, right? About here's the playoff picture right now. And you look at who's in this playoff field. You got the Denver Broncos. Oh, the Steelers beat them. You got the Los Angeles Chargers. Oh, the Steelers beat them too. You got the Atlanta Falcons. Oh, the Steelers beat them. You also got the Commanders and Eagles that are coming up on this schedule. So to say that the Steelers haven't played anybody, Wilson or not, to be at 6-2, they've actually, this first part of the schedule ended up being a little more difficult than we may have originally anticipated. But offensive-wise, Brian, these big plays, do you feel like Justin Fields would have made the same throw to George Pickens late in the game? The one where Pickens doesn't end up getting the left or right foot down and taps twice with the same foot. I don't think he makes that throw. I don't know that he might make the Calvin Austin throw. Calvin Austin had some separation, so he might make that one.
No, Justin. No, the answer is just no.
Okay. And we're not trying to dump on Justin. You know what I mean?
No,
it's just a different kind of player, right? Yeah. So the 10 longest plays for the Pittsburgh Steelers, Russell Wilson to George Pickens, 43 yards. Initially in the stadium, they called it a 50-yarder. I think he stepped out, didn't get the extra yards that they may have seen or they were guesstimating. Van Jefferson for 36. Nice play there too, right? Jefferson ends up, let me see if I got the statistics here for him. He caught 4 balls for 62 yards. So it was a good game for him. Pickens led everybody with 4 for 74. Calvin Austin, 3 for 54 in the touchdown. Darnell Washington, big boy play, the 1 for 29 yards. That's here on the in the statistics here. That was actually the very next one. The third and fourth longest plays for 29 yards to Washington and Austin. And then Najee Harris, a 26-yard run. Jaylen Warren, an 18-yard run. Jaylen Warren, a 17-yard run. Najee, a 14-yard run, Pickens for 14 from Russell Wilson, and then Najee catches the ball from Wilson for 13. Those were the 10 longest plays for the Steelers all over. We weren't saying this before. Like, I think Trubisky didn't have one. I'm trying to find this actual tweet because it's kind of mind-blowing because you only had a couple of quarterbacks that had it. I found it. Chris Adamski, I believe he's with the Trib. Let's blow it up here on the screen for those of you that's watching on the video podcast here. So Wilson has in 2 starts, both games 400-yard offensive games the past 4 seasons. So this is Matt Canada era on through here to Arthur Smith. Fields had 1, so it's already 3 for Arthur Smith, right, in the offense. Mason Rudolph had 1 in 4 starts. Kenny Pickett had 1 in 24 starts. Big Ben didn't have a single one that final year. 0 in 16 starts. Mitchell Trubisky, 0 in 7 starts. So you have a bunch of goose eggs there. When you take, where's it at, Brian? We need to pull up. We got the
Maths with Brian.
Maths with Joe. I found the other one. The graphics department is working overtime here. So between Mason Rudolph, Kenny Pickett, that's 28 games there. You know I can't do this in my head. Ben 16 starts, 44, and then another 7.
44. And
carry it over, and the one somewhere. 50 and 51 starts over the last 4 seasons between 4 of those quarterbacks, Mason, Kenny, Ben, and Mitch. You only had 2 games with 400 yards of offense. They had a terrible streak going until that Bengals game last year after Matt Canada was fired and Mike Sullivan and Eddie Faulkner took over the reins and kind of did a little bit of damage control, but they still weren't just like getting it done. And here you go, 3 and what's the math now? 8 games. Wow, there's already like week 8 headed in week 9. It's unbelievable, man. Like, but the offense is finally feeling like something. 20-some points, 30 points. Like, hey, they're not just struggling to get over the finish line. They're winning these games, and oftentimes they have the advantage throughout most of it, and that allows them to play defense the way they would like. Although defense was a little sloppy last night.
Defense was questionable. They gave, I don't even know where to start because it's a little difficult watching on TV. You may have a better a perspective from being in stadium. Middle of the field was just too open, too consistently. And whether that's because they were playing zone, whether that was because they were playing man-to-man but not doing a good job of it, I don't know. But, man, that middle of the field was just killing them. And then runs to the left. That's where what's-his-face got all his yardage. Those runs to the left, they were just blowing him up over on that side. And that's disturbing because that's Cam's side, although in many cases Cam wasn't in when that happened.
Yeah, they had to. There wasn't all perfection by the Steelers offense. There was some short drives, short possessions. You had a 3-and-out. The only possession,
very inopportune time.
The only possession in the third quarter was a 3-and-out. Although they forced the Giants to punt 3 times. They were on the field for 3 Giants possessions in the third quarter to start that second half. You get tired. You got to start rotating bodies in. And when you do, you've got Isaiah Loudermilk instead of Cam Hayward. You've got Jeremiah Moon and Dean Lowry. And
can I say this, though?
Yeah.
There was a bright spot. Alex Highsmith was a man possessed in that game. So, welcome back, Alex Highsmith, because holy crap. TJ can, gift one of his sacks to Alex because without Alex, he's not getting it.
Yeah, Alex Highsmith had one hell of a game.
We're like 4,000 pressures, 2 sacks. It's crazy.
Yeah, they each had 2 statistically. Yeah. TJ and Alex Highsmith. The strip sack was nice. Alex had 6 quarterback hits in this game. It's unbelievable. Defensively, I think the thing is you got some things on film. They're going to have to go and look and see what they do with Patrick Queen being a 3-down backer. And it's not always on 3rd down that this is happening. And it's not just him. If there's a Landon Roberts, teams are probably going to want to pass. That's why they want 3-down guys. That's why Peyton Wilson, who I think is going to be a fine player, he's getting it. He's getting it quick, right? But Patrick Queen, it's not that he's bad, but they'll send a running back over, or maybe even a tight end. There was one time that he was covering Neighbors, for example. You're trying to run some semblance of a nickel defense. And how does one do this? We'll bring up Beanie Bishop here in a second. But how does one do this with Patrick Queen? Well, you send a running back, whoever it might be, Tracy or Singletary, and you send them all the way over so you can hold hands with the sideline. And now guess what? You got somebody's got to cover him, but Patrick Queen is all the way out of the picture. You've cleared out everything else. Some of these guys are playing man. Maybe the safeties aren't playing shallow enough. You got Mika, but he's playing like a deep center fielder. There's something that has to happen there because the big plays that occurred, you can't allow those to occur as you're going to got the Commanders, got the Ravens. We don't even know. Cleveland Browns finally scored over 20 points and beat the Ravens with Jameis Winston. We don't know if there'll be some revival there. I know you're laughing about it, but Stefanski might have been the... Stefanski might have been
a comment on what's his face anyway. Like, look, we knew Deshaun Watson was not good right now, and we kept saying it. Then you finally put another quarterback in, and all of a sudden they're scoring some points. Look, I don't care what you say. Deshaun Watson's not good, and it was a terrible trade, and they're paying for it, and they're going to pay for it for another year at least, maybe 2
more. 2 more. It's all guaranteed money, my friend. But I'm just saying that Cleveland, it could be more of a challenge than what
Jameis Winston
appeared.
is a pumpkin that's going to turn a coach that's going to turn back into a pumpkin at some point.
Well, yeah, you got Dorsey who's calling plays.
I said that about Joe Flacco last year too. So
Joe Flacco is going to get the start now again.
Yes,
Anthony Richardson was too tired and took himself out of the game. Poor baby man.
What the hell was that?
Can you imagine if that happened imagine that happens in Pittsburgh, what people would be saying about whoever the quarterback is, and then Mike Tomlin talk about cheerleading and everything else.
Be like, oh, you wanted to take yourself out? Fine, go. You're out. Go get in the locker room because you're done.
Yeah. Well, okay. So the Giants, 45-yard touchdown run from Tracy. Problem. 43-yard and 36-yard completions from Jones to Darius Slayton. Tracy had a 26-yarder. Johnson had a 25-yard reception from Jones. And then let me see the rest of these plays. Well, this play was because of roughing the passer on Alex Highsmith, so they added the penalty yards into this. There was another play to Slayton for 18. Slayton was just all over the place. For the most part, I mean, Neighbors did have a big drop, but Neighbors is going to be
a couple of them actually.
Yeah, he's going to be a really good player, but he didn't do the biggest damage. It was always somebody else. Neighbors had a 16-yard and a 15-yarder. They were able to get these yards, and you're just like, this team wasn't able to move the ball. Just a week earlier against the Philadelphia Eagles, they got absolutely just smoked by them. They actually had a longer time of possession than the Pittsburgh Steelers did and had 394 net yards on 67 offensive plays. But the turnovers, again, is what really it boils down to opportune times when TJ Watt strikes, knocks the ball out, and then you've got Beanie Bishop. Once again, Beanie Bishop just showing up. Really, the pace of this game, though, I think comes back to the special teams. Just to go back to that real quick. Calvin Austin making that play. Everybody that's involved with this, making sure, I didn't see who it was, but they made sure they put their hands up, put their backside in to make sure there was no blindside block, no holding, and allowed him to just get, he got that little crease, got up the sideline, and boom, gone. That was really a momentum shifter. You got Russ to put a little more icing on it, but then when it came time for the defense, there was one time where they switched up TJ Watt and Alex Highsmith.
There were several times they did it.
Yes, but there was one in particular on a drive where there were back-to-back sacks by him and Highsmith, and you're like, okay, finally this game's going to be put on ice, and it wasn't. And even with Renegade playing and everything like that, you're just
Renegade
did
not work during that game.
Did not work this time. You're lucky you have TJ Watt, but Beanie Bishop again, and I wonder what to do with Beanie Bishop because we're now outside the window where Cameron Sutton is going to get reactivated. And I think, the interceptions and whatnot, they're vanity plays. They show up nice on the stat sheet. It is splash. This one ricocheted and bounced around, but he still made the play. Now, I've heard some of the guys already, like Wolfley, I think Mike Pursuta, Charlie Batch, they're like, well, Sutton's your guy. Well, absolutely. Sutton could do a lot of different things. He could slide in and play in the safety type role. He could float back. He knows this defense already. He's going to be able to jump right in. But I don't think that's like the end of seeing Beanie. They tried to do a few different things, Brian. Terrell Edmonds was out there. Casey was out there. You had 3 safety looks. You had 6 defensive backs out there at one point with Patrick Queen and just the 4 down linemen. But something's got to change. It was when they switched it up and they said, well, screw this. We're going to put Watt on the other side and see what they end up doing. And then they brought it back and brought to Highsmith, and Highsmith went to the other side. It's like, I'm just going to do the same thing too. Monkey see, monkey do. But aside from that, they don't blitz. Like, how many times do you actually see them bring more? They expect the studs, Watt, Highsmith, Hayward, Benton, Ogunjobi, just 4 guys on a rush against 5 or more. That one time was just straight up. They didn't line anybody up to help against TJ Watt. And it's like, you could see this coming a mile away with the strip sack.
That play and then the 2-point conversion that they tried.
Oh, my
where
goodness.
Everybody just went, I don't know what we're doing. That was, I kept going, what did they snap? How was there a whistle? How come they didn't move?
Was that the Cowboys or the Colts? Who lined up like almost like a special teams play? It wasn't like a 2-pointer, but it was like a punt or a fake punt, and they just had just the long snapper and a guy under center. It was against the Patriots, I think, because whoever was defending it, he snapped the ball and he immediately just zoomed by and tackled whoever took the snap. Like, it didn't work. And this reminded me of the same thing. It was just like, it was so bizarre to watch.
Very strange. And yes, look, TJ was again, they were focused on TJ, and Alex made their evening, trouble. But they did what they needed to do, right? Daniel Jones was getting the ball out pretty quick. When they didn't give help on TJ, for the most part, the ball was out in seconds. Alex was still getting there. When they knew they were going to try and develop a play, there was at least 2 guys, if not 3. I read someplace today that on the strip sack, they were supposed to chip him, and the running back or the tight end screwed up and went to the wrong side.
Oh my, youch. I think I did, like, they motioned. Yeah, I think it was, now that you mentioned that. I remember seeing that kind of in real time, and I'm like, you notice things. It was funny. The folks sitting behind me, I know the one guy, he's like, wow, this is so great live. It's such a different atmosphere and this and that. And he was like, you could see so much that you don't see on TV. And I'm like, I'm just sitting there like, yeah, you could see things unfold. And sometimes it's like, you could predict what's going to happen. Yep. And even though the teams on the field can't predict it, but you see it, you got the bird's eye view, you might have a sense of what's coming one way or another, or that you hope. And sometimes they don't get that call home the whole way. Maybe TJ just falls short of it. The one, he was tackled flat on the ground. You're just like, yeah, come on. It's the LeBron James NBA Finals thing with J.R. Smith. Like, hey, this is like right in front of you. What are you doing? Like, throw the flag, and it was there. I know, like, on that punt return, it was the illegal formation, but the hanky was out, and I'm just like, oh dear, you can't even celebrate. Like, what is it? You can't even celebrate. So
you could see Danny Smith was like waiting. He was like, yes, I don't know, until I know what the penalty is, I can't be happy about this. And I mean, because of when it was thrown, because it was thrown immediately, right before the ball was even kicked, it was thrown. I was like, I don't think that's on us.
Thankfully. Yeah. And Jeremiah Moon pulled up a little short of making the contact. I did see Novak, the white hat referee, he did like a thing, like made a motion, no contact, there's no foul. Like, I like when you see that. Like, the thing with the whole replay that came from New York, like, it didn't seem very transparent for those of us that were there. Like, just tell us out loud, like, hey, didn't get the second foot down, or replay review overturned, second foot not down, or something like that. And it just seems so like janky. But in this case, like, the referee isn't just staring at it and missed it. You know what I mean? And I don't care, because I'm not a Giants fan. You know what I mean? But for the overall presentation of the game, referee saw it and he says there's nothing there. And you're like, whew. But then, like, one of these other boneheads might have thrown a flag, and you're like, okay, what is it? Like, you know what I mean? And I swear, on special teams and punt plays, dude, there's like every NFL game, it's almost every single play, there is something that goes on. I was going to say Beanie. What do you do with Beanie? I think Beanie still has his place. CJ Henderson was called up to the active roster. James Pierre has been playing. He's been playing a lot of special teams. So it's going to be interesting to see what the transaction wire is going to be like when Sutton gets lifted from the suspension. The Steelers are going to, no major injuries, knock on wood, from this game. Got out healthy. You now have a bye week, which maybe Zach Frazier's going to be back. Cordero Patterson, Nick Herbig. I mean, this is very promising. So when we talk about, I know somebody was flaming me in the comments last week about, Russell Wilson, for example. Oh, he only completed 50% of his passes. And it was like, yeah, a lot of that was the first couple of drives. But you take a look at the big plays, 278 yards, 20 of 28 for 71.4% completed. He did take 4 sacks, but that's against this Giants team. So you're not going to have, maybe McCollum might not be. I think McCollum's serviceable. So maybe, I know we all, like, we're holding our breath pretty deep with Dan Moore, who, by all means, you keep trying to replace this guy. We know Broderick Jones probably isn't it on the right side, okay? But when Dan Moore went down, it's like, oh, geez. This has been the only, like, constant. He's been an Iron Man. He's been playing pretty solid. Please don't let this be. And thankfully, it's nothing serious that happened.
So speaking of that, since you said Iron Man, how was the Iron Man tribute to Cam Hayward?
When did they play it? Like third quarter?
I thought it was the beginning. I thought it was the beginning of the game.
No. It actually happened during one of the TV timeouts in game because he was getting teased. The play was down by the scoreboard side of the end zone, and he had a couple guys giving him a little nudge. Oh, he got the towel twirl, he got the applause, he got everything else. But it's so hard to believe out of all of the Hall of Fame players and storied careers and Hall of Honor players, everybody that you could name that has worn that jersey, that he's the guy with the most games played as a Pittsburgh Steeler. That's incredible. That's incredible.
Yeah, unbelievable.
So, and he's going to continue adding to it. And he's missed some time too, which is also kind of crazy, And
he's playing at a very high level.
Yeah, he's one of the, if not the highest rated guy. At one point a week or two ago, PFF had him as the highest rated interior defensive lineman in the entire league. So yeah, the Steelers got a lot coming. You got guys like Frazier, Patterson, Herbig. Hopefully they're going to get healthy. We still don't know we don't know the progress.
Too. Isn't there somebody else?
I could be drawing a brain fart here. So I'll take a look. I'll take a look, see real quick. I don't know if there's somebody that's on actual IR here. Let's see. Dylan Cook has already been practicing. Tyler Matakevich was starting to come back. They just put Roman Wilson on IR.
Yeah.
That might be it for now. Pruitt came back. He caught a pass yesterday. He was among. Let's see. We're going to go back to it. Let's see how many we got here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 players who caught a pass from Russell Wilson. Scotty Miller was targeted twice. He didn't catch either of those, so he could have been the 9th player spreading the ball around. Steelers did run the ball. Like I said, Harris, 19 for 114, third straight game over the century mark, a 6.0 average. He's just been running possessed, even with the patchwork offensive line. I don't know Fatanu, how serious everything was with him. It's going to be tight-lipped. I know some people said if they made like a playoff run, he may have the ability to return, but that's another name. Maybe that was like on the cusp of your brain there, brain cells. But I think that covers just about everyone. And of course, Cameron Sutton on the suspension list. So there's some reinforcements coming.
It might have just been Cam. It might have been Cam.
It might have been. And I keep trying to say Cameron Sutton instead of Cortland Sutton, but the Broncos are in the playoff picture. Like, they got enough guys. I just don't see I don't see a move for wide receiver happening, especially with how well Wilson's playing right now. But it wouldn't hurt because if somebody goes,
the bottom line.
Yeah, somebody goes down, what are you going to do?
It's not that they desperately need it, but adding a body would be great. But they're not going to do it at the expense of their future, right? So if the deal is right, if there were a deal that was right, if the Rams had gotten blown up in their game, right, and Cooper Kupp was going to be available, they might have pulled something off. If they could do it, they would do it, right? I think they want to add another body, because if you can get another, like a 1A to go against Pickens, which they don't have, as good as Calvin Austin's been playing, as good as Van Jefferson may have been playing the last couple games, they don't have a 1A to go with George Pickens. But if they did, man, this offense becomes very scary. So, I'm sure that they're trying. There's just not anybody there to get at this point.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's just maybe Freiermuth gets a little more involved. Just 2 for 19 in this game. He's, he's had some blips on the radar, but it's whatever comes to you. You see the way he's spreading the ball around. Van Jefferson made 2 very nice plays that I liked.
He did.
And maybe could have even had the TD. I don't think that the 26 points is a aberration. I think this was like the floor. The ceiling could have been much higher, could be in different circumstances. There's about 6 or 8 plays in a game that really define those games where you could change it one way or another. And when the negative plays are more from the other side, Daniel Jones throwing the interception to Beanie Bishop, the strip sack that's there, Russell Wilson had one that could have been a negative play, but then you have the big plays like the dagger, like the Calvin Austin punt return for a touchdown. Those are the ones that, really turn the tide in your favor. And if the Steelers are still capable of doing these things, it just looks like all 3 phases of football. We don't even talk about Corliss Waitman. He barely had any punts for the evening. Was it 3? Yeah, 3 for 131, a 55-yard long. The other one was a little more of a sky kick to try and get it right there at the end. So you force him to go the whole distance of the field. Don't kick it in the end zone and start them off at the 20. So he's been serviceable, even though Cameron Johnston was hurt. So I'm still trying to be cautiously optimistic, but there have been a lot of good things. We'll put it this way: where you're at this point this season has got to feel a hell of a lot better than where they were last year.
Oh God, yes. It is you definitely are in a glass half full kind of situation versus last year where it's like, I don't know how to look at this season. I get that the back end of this schedule is not a pleasant schedule, but the Ravens can be beat. The Browns just beat them. The Ravens can be beat. AFC North football is a different breed of football than when the Ravens are just stomping all over everybody else, right? It's tougher. Are there games on their schedule they can lose? Yeah. Are they going to go through the back half of the schedule and win 9 games? Probably not. But are they going to win more than they lose? I think that they will. And I think that there's a good chance that come the end of all this, they still have the division in their hands.
Yeah, I was going to say real quick, because I'm not sure if we will be back on before a preview, if we're going to have a bye week. Depends if there's some news, if there's some trade or something of significance. It's not going to be Deontay Johnson. It's not going to be, like I said, Christian Kirk was a target and he got hurt. I don't know. DeAndre Hopkins is already out of Tennessee. I don't think they're going to fire sale like Calvin Ridley. I didn't even look at his contract. I don't see the Seahawks do anything. I don't see the Broncos do anything. So I don't really see anybody. And then the Rams, of course, like you said, we both said, if they lose Thursday, there might have been a little more propensity, because now they're starting to look toward next year, because you got to win. You got to stack a lot of wins. The Steelers have 2 losses entirely. So if they're able to go through, when they got through week 10 last year against Green Bay Packers, I think they're 6-3. Yes. And then 6-4 after losing to the Cleveland Browns straight after that in like week 11. So from that point, they had lost like 3 games in a row against the Cardinals, Patriots, both 2-win teams, and then the Colts, where you're like, oh, and then their season went to tank and they had to win 3 in a row to close it out. I don't see that same kind of inconsistency or being erratic. And even to the point where you get to the end of the season and you've got the Eagles and you've got the Chiefs, they really control their destiny with all of these division games. The division they went 5-1 in last year. If you split, you win 4 games. If they win 4 games in the division, they might win the whole division. They're going to have that'll get them 10 wins right there. There are other games, like I said, the Eagles, the Chiefs, and then the Commanders. So these are, there's winnable games within them.
Right off the Eagles game, because it's in Philly. We already know that's a loss.
I think that
is a loss.
That's going to
They never win there.
It's going to change this year. It's changing this year.
Okay.
I
live 10 miles away. I'm not going.
It's because of the fan base, isn't it? Like I don't think you could. Don't you? Is your brother an Eagles fan?
Sitting with them. Yes, and I probably am not going to his house and watch the game either.
Well, it's good to see that you have those family matters to deal with. And it's back-to-back, the road games with the Eagles and the Ravens, back-to-back road games. You got like a shorter week because it's Saturday, and then you go to the Christmas Day game at home with the Chiefs. And then you follow up with the TBD for the Bengals. And we don't know who the Bengals are going to be by that point, but they've got a huge hole to try and dig themselves out of, which doesn't look promising for the most part. They may have, I don't even know that they have an edge on the Browns right now. Like those two are going to go like neck and neck. Ravens, they're still, they're in the rear view. You got to look over your shoulder. You got to make sure you at least take care of the bigger thing out of this picture too is that the other 2 games, like these are all within the division. The other 2 are NFC games. So they're on your overall record, but they're not on your conference. They're not on the conference record. So really the conference losses, this was, the Giants was an NFC one, but getting the Jets and the Raiders and the Chargers and the Broncos, like all of these within the AFC, the Steelers are stacked very nicely. So as long as they are able to take care of business within the AFC North, of which they're built to compete against Lamar Jackson. They're built to compete against Joe Burrow and those guys, and they're getting healthy. We might be singing some praises. We're just hoping. The only thing I don't like is when I had that graphic and I lost it. If the season were to end today, then they have to host the Baltimore Ravens. It's like, no, I don't want to play the Ravens 3 times in the same year. Like, screw that. I don't want that. Don't want that. Give me somebody else. So, Brian.
Even at home, I don't want to do it. Yes, I agree.
Yeah, no. That's a lot of respect towards the Ravens, by the way. When you see a team too many times in the same year, It's too much. And they'll both be calling their plays out at the line of scrimmage. So if it gets too predictable. But anyways, thank you, my friend, for joining me once again. Color Rush Unis do it again. Monday Night Football streak still intact. And it's 6-2 going into the bye. Got to be feeling good about Steelers football right now.
Yep.
Yep.
My incisive commentary. Yep.
And folks, once again, this is why I have this guy here. He offers the hard-hitting facts. He brings out knowledge, the statistics. There's a bunch of good ones that are out there we've been retweeting. Go ahead and follow us over on social media. Head on over to steelcityunderground.com and wherever you may be watching or listening to this show. If it's your first time, thank you for hanging with us this long. We usually call all of you that are still here to the end our 2%ers, and we're very appreciative of you supporting Steel City Underground. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, leave a rating review wherever you may have caught this show. Till next time, my name's Joe. His name's Brian. As always, we encourage everyone out there to be safe, be good, and we'll catch you later.
We would like to thank you for listening and remind our listeners to follow us on social media and our website, www.steelcityunderground.com.